ladies and gentlemen, I say this without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. Golden Sun is one of my favorite games for the Game Boy Advance. Even in just one playthrough, it's provided me with a much more enjoyable and wonderful experience than almost every other game available on the handheld. And there are 3 Fire Emblem games on that thing! What I expected was just a solid JRPG that flew under my radar, but I never could have predicted falling in love with it to the extent that I did. I became excited to turn on the game and jump back into the world of Weird, and I was bummed to shut it down and leave it behind. It's not a perfect game, and even I can share more than a few glaring flaws with it, but every bit I played captivated me, and every future moment excited me. Golden Sun isn't a unique game, at least not when you look on the surface. It borrows a lot from the JRPG framework that was popularized by games like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, so naturally there are a ton of games similar to it. But Golden Sun is a game that has many simple ideas done well that combine into a unique experience. You can compare Golden Sun to a lot of games, but only Golden Sun is like Golden Sun. And this is coming from someone who has no previous connection to it. I only just played them for the first time last year. They're games I always heard good things about, but had I known just how amazing they were, needless to say, I would have done a whole lot more to play them sooner. So why do I love Golden Sun so much? Does it have great character interaction that makes you really feel attached to the main cast? Not really. Your main party consists of the blonde-haired silent protagonist, the strong, hot-headed childhood best friend, the shy but exceptionally talented young mage with a mysterious past, and the girl. To be honest, that's the best read I have for any of them. It feels like your party stumbles into their quest by pure happenstance. Like, these were just the 4 people who got together. At the very least, I don't hate any of the characters, but from a purely character standpoint, they don't do a whole lot for me. Does Golden Sun then make up for a lack of character development with a strong main narrative? I guess not. The story is pretty much as follows.
Oh no! A couple of bad guys did a bad thing and are gonna destroy the world or something! We need you 2 boys to venture throughout the land and stop them all by yourselves!
Nah, I don't feel like it.
Huh? But the fate of the world! Also, they took your girlfriend, man! Don't you maybe want to impress her and—
Sorry, I gotta fix my roof. In all honesty, I might even say the story is probably the most flawed aspect of Golden Sun. Not specifically bad, just flawed. The game is populated with smaller mini-narratives over the journey. These are all fine and great, but so many of them happen in between the main story, which is already so spread out, it's easy to forget exactly why you went on a journey in the first place. It doesn't help that the characters in this game are quite chatty and sometimes redundant. I'm pretty patient, so at the very least it didn't annoy me, but it would have been nice if you could skip past them with the start button or something. But what I appreciate about Golden Sun is that it's content to not overcomplicate things. The story is more of a means to the end, a justification for why the adventure needs to take place. That isn't necessarily a bad thing at all though. It just means the story never gets in the way of the other elements that make up Golden Sun. I think what stands out the most about Golden Sun is how the story elements are integrated into the actual gameplay. The main hook of Golden Sun is its magic system, or synergy as it's called in the game. It allows for the user to manipulate the world around them using a variety of different spells, and using it too much can mentally or physically tire them. That's pretty basic in itself, but the system extends to every part of the game. The synergy used in the overworld is the same synergy that casts spells in battles. Both instances even use the magic points stand-in as synergy points. It's a nice bit of world building integrated into the actual game design in a logical way. Here's where the kindness of Golden Sun shines through. The game automatically regenerates PP over time. This is a simple decision, but incredibly smart. Not only is there no theoretical way to run out of magic power to solve puzzles, this also eliminates the MP hoarding trap I find myself in when playing similar games. Because there's always a kickback, there's no reason not to use cool magic powers during battle. Try too hard to solve a specific puzzle, and you might get caught with your pants down during the next battle. It's a simple idea executed brilliantly. But puzzles are something that should absolutely be brought up whenever discussing Golden Sun. The dungeon design is very simple. However, simple is all it needs to be. I play a lot of RPGs, and in that time I've traversed so many boring dungeons. Boring, mostly linear hallways that only distract players with the occasional enemy encounter, and maybe a treasure chest on a branching path. Oh, but sometimes I might be lucky and get a maze. Or maybe I might get a part where I flip a switch that opens a door from an earlier part of the dungeon. Snore. Then comes the magnificent Golden Sun that has puzzles. Here's the thing. The puzzles in Golden Sun are not complicated. In fact, they're quite easy to figure out. But their presence is appreciated. I really don't require anything too special. Just something simple that forces me to think about something other than combat is all I need. It gives the game variety, makes all the dungeons unique, and most importantly, it makes me feel smart, especially because I have to use all 10 of my brain cells. But there's also just a wide net of variants on display. The game uses a lot of the same core foundation, so puzzles involve things like pushing blocks, rolling logs, or hopping over gaps. But the game introduces new elements that either add complexity to the simple format, or even ask players to reconsider how they interact with that same toolset. While there's only so much they can do with the Game Boy Advance limitations, it always felt like Camelot got the most mileage possible out of their assets and coding. By the time I finished a dungeon in Golden Sun, I felt like I really conquered it. Like I had to use my mind as much as my strength to clear through obstacles. If all I can look forward to in a 30+ hour game from a play perspective are the battles, then I better hope it's one of the best battle systems I've ever experienced in my many years with the genre. Not that it's a problem Golden Sun would suffer from. Golden Sun has quite possibly my favorite battle system in any turn-based RPG I've played. It's deceptively ordinary at first glance, but it finds its own ways to twist common design choices to feel entirely its own. I think the most immediately striking thing about the battles is how they're presented. The game has this faux 3D camera system that shifts sprite positioning and really makes battles feel dynamic. The special effects are also really bombastic and a joy to witness, and everything is so quick and snappy. Attacks and spells always take the right amount of time. I still think it holds up really well, especially when you consider this was one of the earliest games released for the handheld. But Golden Sun also has the substance to match the style. The difficulty curve goes a long way in making the battle experience enjoyable. The beginning is like that one stock image of the guy getting shoved in the locker going like, stop! And the other guy's like, huh, easy game, bro. Golden Sun is pitifully easy at the start, and this is a good thing. The risk is so low that you will know for certain how the battles flow. You'll catch on fairly quickly when the different party members act in the turn order, and plan strategies for the future around that consideration. You may even notice more underlying mechanics, like how the attacks don't default to other enemies when the intended target has been defeated, subtly informing you that brute force mashing the A button isn't a viable gambit, and intelligent command planning is important. For those feeling a little frisky, you can even try out all the different options at your disposal, and experiment with the limits of the battle system. But those opening hours won't last forever, and soon you'll be given a little more challenge to work with. And then shoot, you get to the last 5 hours of Golden Sun? The last 5 hours of Golden Sun is like that one stock image of the guy getting shoved in the locker going like, bro? And the other guy's like, holy frick, holy frick, holy frick! This game gets exponentially more difficult the longer it goes on. Like dang, the endgame battles are some of the most difficult I encountered in my many years of experience with this genre. I'm not kidding, and I promised that I would suck either. It pushed back in a way that made me feel panic. During some of the later encounters, I tensed up wondering how I was going to get out of these situations I found myself in. But I didn't realize it. I never noticed the moment it got to that point. It just happened naturally. And no matter how difficult it got, I never felt unprepared. Oh boy, does that mean we can talk about Djinn now? You want to know what simple brilliance is all about? You look no further than Djinn. So, what exactly is a Djinn? Djinn is something I drink to wash away the sorrowful thought on why Camelot hasn't made a 4th Golden Sun game. Wait, wrong Djinn. A Djinni is a magical creature from Golden Sun that gives the users of Synergy many benefits simply by bonding with them. You'll find Djinn by exploring the world. This could either be by solving a puzzle in a dungeon, or finding areas of interest on the overworld map and defeating them in battle. Simply by setting a Djinn to a party member, it will raise that character's stats by the equivalent of multiple level ups. But more interestingly, having different kinds of elemental Djinn sets will alter character classes, and provide new synergy to use both on the overworld map and in battles. So the more Djinn you find, the more options at your disposal. You also have the option to expend a Djinni's power during battle for a special ability. A powerful single strike, party-wide support magic, whatever it may be. The more Djinn get discharged, the more elemental orbs you'll build up. But if you expend those Djinn, then your character classes will also revert back to what they were originally, changing up the available synergy you can use in battle. This might sound pretty complicated if you've never played the game before, but the strength of this system is how intuitive it is in motion. It makes you feel like a mad genius for experimenting. After all, you only get 4 party members in this game. Switching around Djinn can give you a leg up, as it means more characters have access to the spells enemies and bosses are weak against. While the game doesn't explicitly require players to know these finer details, they do feel intrinsically good to figure out. So now that we've discussed it, let's contextualize this whole system. Progressing in the game leads to new synergy powers. New synergy powers lead to more exploration. Exploration leads to Djinn. Djinn leads to new combat arts. Combat arts lead into progression. Progression leads to more Djinn. More Djinn brings us to cool-ass summons! So summons are just some of the coolest things ever in an RPG. I mean, you call them back up from all shapes and sizes to lay waste on a battlefield. Some developers even go super intricate with the summon animations and their abilities. But I have to admit, I don't really use them. Sometimes the animations are a little too ridiculous. It could be that it's just not as efficient as casting some higher level magic, or maybe I just don't see a reason as to why they're worth using over my other options. But when it comes to Golden Sun, summoning creatures is the battle system. The elemental orbs you build up from using Djinn will allow you to summon different creatures in battle. The more expensive the summon, the more damage they deal. Afterward, the person who summoned that creature will have their elemental magic strengthened relative to the type of creature they summoned. Then as turns in the battle pass, the Djinn are returned to the hosts, and all the special abilities and stat buffs get applied to the owner. This is why stat sacrificing is so integral. You're risking durability in order to unleash crazy death monsters for the big damage. After a summon is used, not only do you have the big damage to show for it, but now you can lay down a bit of bonus damage with the corresponding elemental attribute while the Djinn are recharging. This is why the Golden Sun battle system is so much fun to play around with. It continually feeds into itself at any stage in the fight. Every action you take is also setting up for a future action later in the battle. Using a summon is a huge risk because of all the time spent building up to that release, but the payoff is almost always worth it. Between Djinn, summons, and even normal level ups, the game adequately prepares the player for the eventual challenges it will have. Which is a great opportunity to talk about my favorite boss fight in the game. Saturos on the Mercury Lighthouse. This guy kicked my butt when I got to him. Allow me to set up some context for why he was kicking my butt. When I got to the Emil region of the Angara continent, there was one question on my mind. Dang, why did this game get so hard all of a sudden? Well, the reason was that I was doing a bit of sequence breaking without knowing it, because I skipped an entire dungeon which I should have gone to first. This not only meant I was underleveled for the area I went to, I was also missing a few Djinn that would have definitely helped. But while the fights in Emil were difficult, they weren't unmanageable. So I decided to push through and a bunch of stuff happened. I get to the Mercury Lighthouse, I get Mia, I get all the way to the top, get my ass handed to me by Saturos, and now I'm all the way back at the last town. It was here I said the words, no, nuh-uh, no way, I'm not letting that happen. You see, Golden Sun, my mama was a stubborn woman, and I'm her son, dang it! So here I was, constantly resetting my save file right before the fight started, just plugging away at Saturos. I beat my head against this wall again and again, reloading my save, mashing through the unskippable cutscene, getting beaten down. I thought about taking the L and spending an hour or so grinding, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It became my mission to beat him. No tricks and no cheese. Although the knowledge was valuable, every attempt I get a little bit farther. My strategy becomes a little more developed, and on my nth attempt, without so much as a drop of experience as my first try, victory is achieved. Hell freaking yeah! I feel legitimately accomplished. So with how passionate I've been about Golden Sun this whole time, you may be wondering if there's anything that I truly dislike about the game. For a majority of the experience, I would have answered no. But upon finishing it, there was something that left me immensely disappointed. In order to talk about it, I'll also kind of have to spoil how Golden Sun ends. Despite that though, if you are actually interested in playing this game for yourself one day, this is something I do think you should know before going in. So I promise not to say way too much, but I will be addressing this because it does need to be said. Well, the thing about Golden Sun is that the game isn't complete. I played it for the first time completely unknowing about the premise of the game. I knew of Isaac and that he had magic hands, and that's all I knew. So when I made it to what was seemingly the midpoint of the story, I was left aghast when I saw the words, "To be continued." Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with cliffhangers. It can pose some interesting questions for where the story can go next and create excitement for the future. But this is the wrong kind of cliffhanger. This is the cliffhanger that you can tell was just them not having finished the story. It doesn't even feel like a story arc has just concluded. The game ends with the party already setting out on the rest of their adventure. I'm not petty enough to say that this ruined Golden Sun for me, but it did end up lowering my final impression of the game drastically. The thing that makes Golden Sun so difficult to talk about is you really can't look at one entry in this series by itself. They are all informed by, but different from each other. Golden Sun and its sequel, The Lost Age, need to be treated as two parts of one expansive game. And a third entry on the Nintendo DS is a direct, albeit distant continuation of the story. So that can only mean we should talk about every Golden Sun game, discussing what makes each one brilliant in its own right. And as for Golden Sun 1, it is a beautifully remarkable game. Its battle system, its exploration, its puzzles, its characters, its music, there was just something about this game at every little step that made me happy to play it. Even as someone with no previous attachment to this series, I was impressed by how charming, cozy, and creative it is. It is a showpiece of the magic that can be achieved when a group of talented individuals seek to create a captivating adventure. It's simply brilliant.